Hi, I'm Bob Kovacs, and this is my 2008 Suzuki SX4. In this video, I will bleed the brakes on the car. I had the brakes open to replace a part, and anytime you do that, air can get into the system. So you need to bleed the brakes to purge the air from the system. There's a number of steps, and it's an important task. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the brake bleeding nipple. Now, I've taken the tire off so that you can see it more clearly. It's not absolutely required that you take the tire off to bleed the brakes, but it does make it a lot easier. Anyway, the nipple is capped with a little rubber cap to keep things clean. I'm going to use a screwdriver to help me get it off. I'm going to save that cap to reuse it when I'm done. To bleed the brakes, you need to add brake fluid to the brake fluid reservoir. I like to use .4 brake fluid, but either .4 or .3 brake fluid is fine. So go ahead and start by taking the cap off the brake fluid reservoir and pour the brake fluid in carefully. You don't want to get brake fluid on your hands or on any of the car's paint because it can corrode paint, and it's also not a super healthy thing to get on your skin. So wear gloves if you have to, or just be very neat and make sure you keep it away from any of the body's paintwork. Now, I had the brake system open, so I know I'm going to need a fair amount of fluid, so I'm going to pour a fair amount of fluid in here. We'll start with that for now. This nipple takes a 10mm wrench, so I'm going to get that in place before I use my brake bleeding suction tool. I have a vacuum brake bleeder, so the thing to do is to take the end of the tube and put it over the brake bleeding nipple. Pump the handle to put some vacuum on this. And then open the brake bleeding nipple, and as I do that, fluid will flow into this cup. And I keep pumping it so that it keeps pulling fluid through. Now, it might take a while because a lot of air bled out of the system. A lot of drips of fluid came through the system. It looks like I'm starting to pull some fluid through. This does take quite a few pumps, as you see. Now, when there's still vacuum in the system, I'm going to tighten the nipple up and lock it off. And release the tube. Okay, I'm thinking that I got enough fluid through there to make sure that there's good fluid in the brake cylinder and there's no more air. Now, you'll need to do the bleeding on every wheel of the car. All four wheels, you need to check the bleeding to make sure that the fluid you pull through is nice fluid and there's no air bubbles in it. Now, once you're all done, and then, in fact, during the bleeding process, you may need to recheck how much fluid there is in the master cylinder reservoir. And if you are low, you need to add more fluid. That looks good in my master cylinder reservoir. Make sure the brake bleeding nipple is on good and tight. Don't over-tighten it, of course. But if you're sure it's on tight, take the wrench off and put the cap back on top of the nipple. Anytime you have a component of the brake system open, the hydraulic system open, you have to bleed the brakes, at least at that part of the car. So I had the brakes open at the rear driver's side wheel, so I bled the brakes there. It's a good idea to bleed your brakes every few years and pull clean fluid through. That helps the components last longer. But all I'm going to do is the one wheel for now, since that's the only place I had a problem. Hey everybody, I'm Bob Kovacs. Thanks for watching.